Just make sure it's streaming. Right? Oh, I'm on this one. Right there. So we'll give it another minute and then we'll start. Okay.
I have my LinkedIn open so I can see it on the side what is going on.
Yeah, that's cool. And hey everyone, if if you don't mind, just please feel free to put in comments where you're joining from. If you have any specific questions, we'll start in another minute here. Here. All right, it is 11 o'clock. I think we can start. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Saurabh Gupta, and today we are going to talk about financial services cloud and artificial intelligence, and what can you do with AI to better support your wealth management, insurance, and banking customers. My name is Saurabh. I am the CEO and co-founder of Cloud Compliance and GPTfy, Salesforce App Exchange ISV partners. So we have apps on the App Exchange, which are 100% native to the platform. And we enable AI on your Salesforce. We do data retention, data masking, right to be forgotten, and portability. So a lot of data security, compliance, and AI is what we do. A disclaimer before we get into some of the content: everything you're hearing here is just our perspective. It's not legal advice. It's not Salesforce's point of view. It's purely for informational purposes. This deck, this event, the speakers, everything we're talking about is purely informational, and please take it in that spirit. With that out of the way, a nod to our sponsors. We are grateful for all of these fabulous organizations that came together and put in the grunt work to make something like this happen. So this is Enterprise Dreaming really started because we wanted a very unconference-like way for all of us to be able to talk pragmatically about AI. There is a lot of hype, a lot of conversation, a lot of great things happening, and we wanted to separate all of that out. So it really broke down into two tracks. There is the Dreaming with AI, which is really talking about the possibilities of what you can do with AI, with your Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Health Cloud, Financial Services Cloud, and document automation. This is the last session in this track. The good news is everything's gotten recorded, and we will share resources where you can go get a look at any and all of these videos if you like. The second part of this is, if you've gotten on with this idea and you're kind of embarking on the journey of bringing AI into your organization, how do you go about delivering on it? So how do you build business cases? How do you address concerns around privacy, ethics, and security? Do you build it? Do you buy? What are your options? And how can you build a roadmap and execute? So again, most of these sessions have happened and they're recorded. Later today, we have the Build Your Roadmap session that Anand Narasimhan is doing.
Hey, Saurabh, are you sharing your screen? I don't think so. We're seeing your screen.
Oh, I thought I was. I'm sorry. Let me do that. All right. How about now?
Yep.
Okay. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I was talking through this. So yes, so we are, doing these sessions, and all of those are recorded. So you will have the opportunity to review them after this meeting here, if you like. All right. With that out of the way, let's go next. So a little bit of agenda. We're going to go through a speaker introduction. I have Kavin Mehta from Accenture here, one of my ex-colleagues from Salesforce, brilliant guy. I'm so glad that we get to hear from his very seasoned perspective. He's going to talk about some of the challenges in financial services and what are the new horizons that AI enables and what can it do for us today. We will look at some of the use cases, considerations around security architecture. We'll do a bit of a demo on what you can do with AI in your Salesforce. And we have some really great takeaways and resources. So all the recorded videos, some PDFs on use cases that you can take a look at and really sort of start building the case for going down this path, or at least evaluating it. And it's a really excellent way to get an initial perspective on this before you head to Dreamforce or attend it virtually. So with that out of the way, the one last comment I have is please keep posting in comments on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or on this Zoom event, wherever you're joining us from. If you have any questions, please keep asking. My team is looking at all of these comments, and we will definitely pull these questions either during the session or afterwards in a dedicated Q&A. All right, with that, I am going to turn it over to Kavin. Go ahead.
Hey, Saurabh, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just a quick introduction. I'm Kavin Mehta. I am Managing Director with Accenture. I'm part of the Salesforce business group within Accenture. And currently, of all the different roles, I play the CTO for the North America Financial Services. And in that capacity, I'm responsible to bring in the latest innovations of the market into the Salesforce ecosystem. This includes now the latest and greatest. What we're going to talk about today is generative AI and part. And today, I think it's more like a chat or fireside chat. As Saurabh mentioned, these are all our. None of these are legal advice. None of these are. You're not going to make any bang decisions from that. So just keeping it simple and straight. That this is a point of view coming from our battle scars, what we have seen, and how we see the industry moving, where we see the challenges. Gonna have an open conversation. Feel free to send your notes, comments, and would try to answer as many as of those possibly can. And it's again recorded session available for you, and feel free to reach out. I'll be at Dreamforce, so feel free to hit me on the LinkedIn, and happy to meet and catch up during the Dreamforce. With that said, I think we can move on. So today we are talking about the financial services, or FSI, or some people in the world call as BFSI. So there are several acronyms to it. But when we are talking about financial services, we are talking about financial services and insurance sector. It's a very complicated vertical on its own because it's highly regulated. There are significant compliance requirements to it, and it's an extremely wide spectrum on its own. So when we talk about financial services, we are talking about the simplest of financial services verticals like the retail banking and commercial banking, to all the way the asset and wealth management and the capital markets, where the complex financial instruments are being built and sold and managed and everything else. So when we talk about financial services, the spectrum itself is wide enough to demand its own sub-vertical specific conversation. But we'll keep it simple. So today's conversation is very focused. We are going to keep it focused on how the AI or the generative AI is going to help or influence and support the financial services needs and asks for the future. But before we start, let's just keep it simple. Let's ask that what's driving it. So when you talk about financial services, anything, whether it's a retail bank or it's a wealth manager or it's your cap market, it's your investment banker, what everybody is looking for is delivering the hyper personalized. It's no longer a cookie cutter conversation which anybody is expecting. Everybody wants something which is very personalized to suit my needs, my family needs, or the business which I operate on, or the type of trades which I place. So it has to be hyper personalized, but also the core challenge which it presents is that the financial institutions have to keep the cost in check, that they can't have it undoable cost of serving the client, because there is only this extremely competitive market and the margins are low. But everything is possible, but being in a highly regulated environment, you need to meet your compliance, security, and regulatory obligations. Just want to pause here and just make sure we all understand the compliance, security, and regulatory obligations are very stringent. They have significant financial repercussions to it, and they are being deployed by different countries. If you are a global organization, by different countries for their own right needs. I'm not challenging what they are, but what I'm saying is that supporting those regulations is a must-have for all the financial services institution, and they have to do it.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit of color to it, Kavin. I think you're bringing such an interesting point. AI, to begin with, is an area that, the compliance and sort of laws around it are muddy. EU is kind of still figuring out how much of it would they want to permit, how much of consent and what kind of consent is required. In the US, there is a whole other set of things that seem to be happening. It's a patchwork of laws at state level. So to begin with, we're talking about a regulated sector, financial services, health and life sciences. Those are sectors that tend to have a lot of regulatory obligations. But add to that the fact that AI is this completely new area that's getting in here. So as we go through this, you will find that, there are those objections that will come up. We'll talk about some of them here. And we have like sessions specifically for privacy and ethics and security that you can look at later. But I think, Kavin, your point is really well made.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you brought it good. So for this entire conversation, when we are talking about AI or generative AI, we are talking about a more mature branch of that, which is, we call it as an ethical AI or a responsible AI. I'm not talking about anything which is on the cutting edge in terms of, because of all the compliance, security, regulatory, we have to talk about it, and also for the good reasons. It's not just that somebody's forcing us to do it. So when we are talking about this, there are three challenges. So just stay on the previous one. So financial institutions are facing that they have to adopt newer technologies, and nobody knows better than the data protection, as Saurabh talks about. They need to deal with the data protection. So you can't simply have the data usage which are beyond certain part. If you are a California resident, if you right to forget whatever the different, or if you are a European customer, what kind of GDPR. So all those data protection and data privacy have to be there. You are also, as a financial institution, you have invested over the several decades in a lot of technology implementation institute, a lot of those things. Some of them are modern, some of them are in the modernization phase, but you are not dealing with all digital fintechs. Whether it's you are talking about your Apple card for your commercial, or your Apple savings account, which you open in 30 seconds and think about that, compare with others, or your wealth management and others. So you are dealing with a whole bunch of fintechs who are all digital native financial institution, which can, and they all can better support as compared to the financial institutions which have grown over decades or centuries. And the most important part is this newest generation. And I don't think, and I'm there on the cusp of that, but the newest generation wants just frictionless experience. They do not like a lot of questions to be asked. They just want it like, you're like Tesla has shown how people can buy the cars and not going to the dealership, and Apple's or Starbucks, that's the experience everybody wants. So given these items today, let's talk about how we are going to solve it. Some of them leveraging the FS. But before we start there, let's talk about a few things that what we are doing. So AI, how AI can solve it. I think I've been on this dealing with the artificial intelligence. It's a and those who know it, they know that this is a very, very high level term, but I'm not gonna keep the conversation simple. But with the chat GPT now, even the common man, everybody knows that the AI is real. Thanks to that, the whole GPT transfer conversation, this made it real and the mainstream. And if just for people who are streaming on the chat, it's just want to have a quick poll, if you can put the note, what the T in the GPT stands for, what it stands for, and exactly what what it is. If somebody can just, you can just use the comment section to put the notes around that, what the T in the GPT stands for, and what does exactly that means in the world of neural networks and all that. I would love to hear more about it. So right now, for the FS space, the whole growth and acceleration, it can be summarized in two simple words, two simple things. A, how you can, so your front office, your employees, which are directly working or interacting with the clients, how are we going to make them more efficient? How can we use AI to support their day-to-day activities and workflows so that they spend less time, they spend or maximizing their time to spend it with their clients rather than trying to type an email or trying to do the research and spending hours? How can we make it simple for them? What does this mean for financial services institution? It simply means that if today I can support 50 clients, 100 clients, if I take some of those tasks away, that means that without adding additional bankers or wealth advisors or traders, I can support potentially 20%, 25% more, depending on the spectrum. I can increase, I can grow my footprint without growing the number of advisors. And there are a lot of benefits from training, attrition, quality, a lot of those. So it has a significant benefit, not just the cost of it. And then the second part of it, I still have a significant population of my employees as a financial services institution. They are deployed into the back office or mid office work, which I can convert to front office or more client facing work if I am able to leverage AI to automate them. So if I have people, a team of people who are doing the compliance check on my communications, if doing compliance check on the documentation, there are so many mid office and back office functions. If I can convert them, so think about this way, that without I'm increasing my cost, I have more of my employees are client facing and supporting and delivering an excellent service. Think from that perspective, that how the AI can truly help this FS financial institution, while AI can still help with the regulatory standards. We already touched base on that the privacy standards or the ethical standards and all that. We still need to mitigate that, and we're going to talk about it. And the AI being the black box, AI can become an autonomous. So the level of autonomy, which the use cases have a level of autonomy, the level of autonomy can create a lot of challenges. We are going to talk about it, but how are we gonna, while we are delivering AI, using AI to deliver the efficiencies, how we still need to manage the risk. So it's kind of a yin and yang of the AI side, which we are going to talk in the subsequent slides. So let's go next. And it's a simple, I think, Saurabh very nicely in general. And I'm a Salesforce ecosystem guy. What Salesforce and AI can do it for you. We have all heard of Einstein GPT's Salesforce own offering, but that's not the only one. There are several of that. Saurabh has GPT-5, several others offering. But even in the end, the simplest way the Salesforce and AI can operate, and thanks to Salesforce overall architecture, it's extremely easy to integrate in a compliant manner with the AI tools to deliver a simple, like all these use cases we are talking about. Whether I have to take my Salesforce data stored in it, or the remote data, which we all talk about, or anything else, how Salesforce makes it extremely easy and convenient for us to store the local data, the remote data from the Salesforce, send it to leverage the AI or generative AI tools and deliver some of these core functions. It's very easy. So if you want to add something to it.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Kavin. I think really, if you look at the grand scheme of thing, every business is trying to do is, we have a lot of grunt work, right? A lot of things that we are doing manually, where data is not structured, it's hard to make sense of, you don't have insights, right? I have a bunch of emails on an opportunity. Now, if my manager looks at this opportunity, literally the only thing he or she can do is reach out to me and say, hey, Saurabh, what's going on with this account, right? And the idea of AI here is that, can we summarize all of the interactions that have happened in structured and unstructured data on Salesforce whether it's emails, files, whatever else. Can we summarize all of this and surface up at an account level? Can you see an account 360 where you're bringing in things like intent, sentiment, next best action, and all of that is generated through generative AI? Very much like, think of the OpenAIs of the world and Chat GPT, right? How do you bring the Chat GPT capability to your Salesforce in a secure, compliant manner? And that's what the rest of this talk is going to be. But my submission to everyone on this call, or anybody who looks at this video, is we almost need to unlearn a lot of status quo, a lot of processes, a lot of things that we do today, because AI is now this new tool in our arsenal, which once you go through all the privacy, security, all of those due diligence, once you deploy AI and you look at some of these areas, your entire processing of things can completely change. And we have some demos at the end that, will show, a lot of these things in action. And I think it's a fantastic way to bring a serious return on investment and reduce your overall cost, all the industry challenges that Kavin was talking about. So with that, I'm going to move on. Go ahead, Kavin.
Yeah. So let's talk about, so we said that, okay, Salesforce and AI can do magic, right? So
Hey, are you able to? Kavin, I'm able to hear you. Are you okay?
Okay. No, sorry, I'm hearing some. Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was getting some echoes. Just to. Perfect.
Would you like me to take it?
Okay, yes, please. I think I'm having some audio issues,
Okay,
some delays or something else going on. I don't know. Is it okay now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's talk about, so we'll try to, in the next 3 or 4 slides, we'll try to keep it simple. That we talked about what an AI can do, but that's fine. What is there? But where is the starting point? Because this is where everybody's talking about that. Okay, yes, there are 1,000 use cases I can think about, but where can I start? That the first thread, the first stake in the ground is important. And this is something very straightforward. You all have seen it in one context of another, but how can we make it simple? So even if we take this simple, the 4-quadrant approach, it's just about picking up those low-hanging fruits, which are high value. And we'll talk about those use cases and something which can start quickly, low nuanced, which we can start. That's where we can start about, and we can look that quadrant even into that, like even those first and second quadrant, we can break it into this smaller, in a much manageable chunks. So start with the lowest hanging fruits, which is that it's almost, you need no background data. For example, and I'll talk about example that I just need to summarize my call. I just need to find my action items. I don't need to send the whole bunch of data. I just need to, within that context, I just need to send the data and get it back. That can potentially be your easiest starting position, that use it to move on. And we'll talk about those examples. As soon as we start getting, you'll have a significant learning in terms of not just a technology operational, but also functional aspect of it. There's a significant amount of feedback and learning what you're going to get, how much accurate those summarizations are, or those outputs from your Copilot or GPTs are. A lot of learning you're going to get. You're going to take that learning, apply it, and try to take a little bit more complicated use cases where you need to send a little bit more data than just within the context. So if you have to summarize my portfolio, if you have to summarize my annual call report, something like that in the example, you may need to send a lot more data than just sending my simple call transcript to say that, okay, summarize the call and find me the action item. Those are still they are still manageable, good starting point. You can do it again. The whole learning and feedback loop is going to be part of it, but that's typically the second set of use cases or second wave of use cases, depending on what language you use, phase, wave, or whatever it is. That's the second phase of use cases you may want to attempt. And then as you apply the learning, again, it's kind of more layered, that as you apply your learning, feedback, more all from the operational governance, technology, as well as the business feedback regarding the accuracy and all that, you're going to go and approach much more complicated and predictive use cases. That's going to take a lot more attempt, a lot more learning. So something, if you can deploy it within a quarter, if it's a quick use cases of zero shot, the first shot may take a little bit more than a quarter or maybe a couple of quarters. This high complexity task, and I know of some of my customers, they are taking almost a year, because, and we'll talk about some of those challenges that why they are taking it, but those high complexity use cases which needs a lot more training, lot more vigilance and governance, those are the ones which will come later. But these are all the use cases, these are all the waves or the buckets of use cases which we are talking about. So let's talk about some of the examples of what we have. And this is not an exhaustive list, but this is just something which I have picked up from this different items. So starting, in fact, from top to bottom, you can see, and this is again in the context of financial services, but you can always very well adopt these for any other verticals and change it in your own. But starting, the way this approach was taken is from the advisors or from the bankers or from the traders perspective. Within your Salesforce context, you picked up a phone call or you received a phone call and you're going to start talking. There's a lot of context which we need to provide. You all are delivering your 360s. There's anybody and everybody has their own 360s, absolutely. But how the Copilot can work, rather than looking into a complex dashboard with 15 metrics to understand the client, what's the summary of that metrics? What those 3 metrics means? It means that okay, the top 3 topics I'm talking about, or top 2 channels I'm talking about, or top 2 topics I'm talking about, rather than me trying to decipher that from my dashboard, can somebody summarize it in a consistent fashion for me to tell me that, okay, what kind of conversations I should have with anybody on the call, whether if I'm an advisor and somebody's talking to me about retirement, or the wealth advisor talking about retirement, or if I am a retail banker who is trying to having conversation about home mortgage, or I am a commercial bank, I'm a commercial relationship manager who is trying to have that. Think about in that context that how those things can happen. I finished my conversation. So how can I have a effective conversation? How can it help me? And then from there to content generation and communication aspect of it, that I finished my conversation. How do I summarize it? Typically, this is the one which I've given, like it can be started sooner, because the call summarization. And just as an example, Saurabh, these days, depending on your role, and again, it's a wide spectrum, depending on your role, you can spend anywhere from an hour to 3 hours a day trying to summarize, depending on whom are you working with. If you're a retail banker, it can be lower, but if you are a wealth advisor dealing with high net worth client, your communication and recap will definitely take you a lot longer than just sending a 2-liner or 5-liner, which you have to send. There is a significant uplift here if I can extract or save, let's say, 2 hours out of my 3 hours, and I'm giving conservative item. That can have a significant impact on my productivity. And take also the second example, somebody who is advising for 20 years and somebody is advising for 6 months or just started. Their advice can be significantly varied and effectiveness can be different. If my Copilot can help me bridge that gap, and my bottom line, my minimum standard becomes like almost everybody is advising as if somebody is over a decade experience, that's a much stronger advice which I'm delivering to my client, as compared to the living on my own. Somebody's in the industry for 6 months and somebody's for 20 years. Now, if I'm done with that, for my communication, typically I spend a lot of time researching about my client, trying to get a lot of data aggregation. And this is very relevant when you're talking about in the capital markets, investment banking scenarios. You have to do significant client research. You are dealing with the commercial or institutional clients. There is a significant amount of research which goes before the client meetings, typically your quarterly business reviews or your annual reviews. significant amount of work goes into it. Significant number of team members get involved in collecting the data from 15, 20 sources, trying to come up with it. AI can do this work for you effectively and, more importantly, accurately and compliantly. Compliance is important, accuracy is important, and the speed is important. So typically you have to pick one or two axes. You can't be fast and accurate typically when we talk about it, but AI can help you with that. Think about that. Going back to the more complex processes, which are typically your mid office and back office processes, your automation, your approvals. Hey, in my commercial banking, I need to approve somebody for a $10 million loan, but somebody has the exposure of pretty high exposures. Can I support them or not? Somebody is in a high risk industry when they're securing the loan. Can I do that or not? Those are all lot of those items which are there. And many of the times it becomes an individual rather than a data-driven approval. It's my gut feeling as a manager who is approving it, rather than data-driven, because it's not that the managers, they don't want to do it. It's just a lack of that data or that advice available. What if I can, but this needs a lot more data. That's why I put it that these are all a little bit longer horizon as compared to the other three examples we talked about. And the most important and most boring part of the workflows, the compliance and audit. Saurabh is laughing. He lives in this space. Compliance, audit, data governance is, I know we've been passionately had several conversations about it, but think about this way. You submitted a document. What if somebody can actually submit your annual investment statement, your documents, your balance sheets, you are in commercial banking, and it's not that much like it takes a lot of effort even for retail spaces, but wealth and commercials and investment banking, this can take forever. At one point in my previous life, I was talking, typically a cost of a KYC, an internal cost of a KYC for a commercial and institutional client can anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 or more. Even for high risk client, it's even more than that. It's even more than that. And think about that. You have to do it annually, or 12 to 18 months. You have to do this process again and again, because it's not a one and done space. Imagine how much time and money, it's time and money both can be saved. And most importantly, even if you're saving time and money with increased accuracy, that's the part which is going to be more critical, because time and money can be saved, but you are not accurate. You're hitting a incoming train for all the right reasons. But if you can save time and money and also be more accurate, that's the holy grail which we are talking about. So these are some the use cases. Go ahead, Saurabh.
No, I just wanted to say this is such an excellent slide. Like literally in this entire conversation, right, this slide lays it out, right? When you think about your front office folks here, whether you're financial advisor, banker, insurance agent, whatever, subsector of financial services you are in, right? You are enabled by AI to varying degrees. And again, back to that grunt work and the cost of, manually doing things. Any impact we make there is a direct revenue impact, right? It's money saved is money earned kind of way of thinking about this. But what I also like is, to Kavin's point, right? So much of this back office stuff that happens today, there is a lot of manual PDF, paper forms that kind of fly around. There is a hidden cost here that almost goes unnoticed, right? Like, sure, you keep on doing it for so many years, for like, I don't know, 50, 60 years or more. Financial services has been doing this, and it's just kind of assumed as cost of doing business. And as you look at AI as a way of doing some of these things, there is really interesting innovations you can make here. In fact, later on in the demo, one of the things that I wasn't thinking about earlier up until Kavin started talking about it is we've done, we've added some capabilities around document analysis. So you can take to PDF and compare it using AI. I'll see if we can sneak that in and show you guys how that looks like. Because what's fabulous about all of this is it's driving down the cost of bringing really, really sophisticated capabilities so that we can deploy them at a massive scale all across the enterprise. And to Kavin's point, there is security, compliance, all of that we want to consider. But put that in, and you are really talking about a fairly interesting competitive advantage.
Think about this, all right. So not just that, the quality goes up. If I get a cheap contractor, my patio might be coming out cheaper, but it may not look good. If I'm taking a cheaper car, it may take me to point A to point B, but it will be unreliable. But here we are not just, so typically in our industry, when we talk about reducing cost, it comes with a significant risk of quality and consistency. Here we are talking about reducing cost, increasing the speed, but this dimension would not have possible with other traditional route where you are increasing the quality, which directly impacts your customer satisfaction. So that is a significant dimension which AI delivers, which typically the traditional technology tools support, but otherwise in your business, when you're doing your business planning, business prioritization, as soon as you do that, you add a significant risk to quality. But here AI allows you to reduce the cost significantly and increase the quality. That's the dimension which everybody is liking, and that's the reason when you all go back and think that why my bosses are so much gung-ho about getting to the AI and GPTs of the world is because of this third dimension. That's where you don't have to do much more business case approvals. You are already sold for it. You just want to go and execute it. Let's go to the next one, Saurabh. So we talked about it. Again, Saurabh and I both have a very strong compliance background, and we both have been emphasizing it, talking about it, and will continue to. So whatever we talk in financial services, it's all ethical and responsible AI. We don't talk without that context. So that means a lot of other dimension, and we'll talk in later. But here is the typical challenge which we and how we solve it. And Saurabh, thanks for putting this one. This is a similar layer, what you all have heard about Einstein GPT's trust layer, but all that, irrespective of any product, these stages are going to be more or less in a very similar fashion. All the enterprise wants to leverage GPTs or the generative AI tools, but nobody wants to share the data. I want to get all the intelligence. I want to get all kind of advice, but I'm not going to share my data. That's a very, it's a very difficult position to be in it. And it's not just that they don't want to do it. That's where we talked about the whole regulatory aspect of it, the whole, the compliance aspect of it. So it's not that they are doing it by wish. It's more about doing it because it's kind of needed. You can't share my data. You can't tell that it's a Doug who is applying for a loan, or you cannot have. So there is all of those. So sometimes for other verticals, it's easier to approach or faster to approach generative AI or even any other technology tools. But when we do it in here in financial services, this is what it goes. For me, the compliance and regulatory comes first. And if you just think about this basic 5 steps, I think when you're talking about it, when you're thinking about deploying the AI in your enterprise, as whether it's an FSI or any other regulated one, these simple 5 steps should help you. Keeping it simple, and these are still safe. And again, there is a lot more double click to it, but these 5 steps. So when you are trying to leverage whether a public GPT 3.5, or you want to go with a private domains, or you want to use Anthropic or anything else, there are so many tools. They are coming up by the days. Like every day there is a new name coming. Saurabh, like we have like literally new names on and new names, and not just new names as if the quick and dirty. The new names are every day we are getting a stronger and stronger offering and verticalized offering. We are getting it yesterday, even, and as a matter of fact, you all should try it. You can actually ask Chat GPT to create a LLM model and a verticalized GPT solution. You can actually use those prompts to create a solution for that, and Chat GPT will create a very good framework for you as a starting point. So it's getting that funny and that fast these days.
Yeah, that's a really great call out, Kavin. And I, very quickly, I wanted to add, like, what we are showing here is, again, as Kavin mentioned, right, the Einstein, the Salesforce trust layer. In GPTfy, we have built a security layer. Fundamentally, the idea is the same. And if you decide to build your own or buy something, you want to be certain that it has a robust security layer and it's going to do some of these things, right? All of these tools are pulling data out of Salesforce, from standard object, custom object, managed package object. And when you're sending this out, you want those tools to mask it. And again, we'll probably in a couple of minutes show a demo and show how some of these things happen, where you can specify what information you consider as PII or, confidential or sensitive data, and you're actually replacing it. So we mask it, and then we send it out to some AI model. It could be OpenAI on Azure or something. It could be something running on AWS. It could be Google Cloud. It could be your, Salesforce's model, whatever, or you could have it on-prem, right? So any of those options, you just basically have an AI model that you're sending anonymized or masked information to, and you're sending it with optimized prompt. So prompt is another area that is really, really interesting, and I think it deserves a few minutes of our time here. But the idea is that now you're sending data which has dramatically less potential or risk of exposing individuals, and you're grounding it further with prompts. You get a response back, you re-inject you get this response back in Salesforce. So every blue box is the secure, trusted Salesforce environment. And what I love about, being on the Salesforce ecosystem is that it is probably one of the most robust security architecture in place when you talk about cloud-based offerings, right? And so once it's back in your Salesforce, you re-inject it back. So Doug became person one when it was sent out. When you got back, you replace person one with Doug, and then you present it to the user. You also have the ability to automate it. So you can update fields on case, opportunity, account, whatever. And the minute you do that, you now have the full power of flows. You have power of escalations, notifications, all of that. And you can say, hey, this case just went red. My multi-million-dollar high net worth customer opened a case to change her name because she got married or something, and now she's unhappy. She wrote us an angry email. This went red. Well, that financial advisor better get on a call and send her flowers to make sure, right? Like to alleviate the situation. The entire idea here is to bring more proactiveness, is to bring more agility in offering better service, getting an increased share of wallet, but doing it with security built in. We do not want to rely on some individual and we will train our users to not do this, to not send information, right? Obviously, this sector definitely does not work that way. And the idea is to have this very robust baked in layer of security to ensure that your information never ever leaves the trusted Salesforce environment. So I'm going to move to next, Kavin, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So these are some of the examples we are talking about that we discussed so far. And these are some of the examples which Saurabh's team worked pretty quickly to deliver on the GPTfy. But again, these are the art of possible. Definitely you can use these or anything else. But the goal is to show that these things are real and can be done now rather than waiting for another year or 1.5 years or 2 years from now. Simply speaking, like this, and this one is one of the fastest one, which we put it as a zero shot one, is rather than sending the replies and bonds. So there are two risks which are around with it, right? Think about this way, that your experience relates to the empathy as well. Sometimes, especially on your high net worth, and as soon as you get into wealth and cap market, your experience leads to empathy as well as that intelligence of reading between the lines of what your conversation had. The impact of this will be significant between now here. You can generate a follow-up email based on your conversation. So you had your phone call, you get your transcript, you can actually generate an email which is much more exhaustive because it demonstrates that you have captured every small or big details. Second, it has the right tone. Based on you can even change these days the sassiness of your conversation. You can be friendly to the formal. So you can literally change the spectrum of being too sassy to too formal. You can go through the scale. So you can change the tone and you can auto adjust the sassiness of the conversation directly based on how you can leverage multiple attributes of the AI. Simply by AI. And this is previously, it means for you a 30 to 45 minutes spent time on one email drafting, summarizing to your high net worth client that, hey, what will what we captured and how we are going to approach next 6 months to a year for the portfolio conversations. Think about the differences. This is a truly like a today's use case, which you can do it now. You can deploy it in the hands of your customer. And again, this use case is not a black box one. What it means is it's not that your AI is directly working or corresponding with your client. It is more in an assisted manner where AI is generating the content for you. You still tweak, you still use your human intelligence to tweak that messaging, but somebody has taken the grunt work, and rather than you spend 45 minutes, you now take 10 minutes to further fine-tune the email communication and send it out.
Yeah,
that's what it delivers, and it is one of the most effective use case you can actually use or deploy today in your enterprise.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, Kavin, in the interest of time, let's do a show and tell. Let's actually show these for real and kind of ditch the slides for a minute. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so here we are. We are in Salesforce. I'm going to go to auto-generate email. Let's just start with this one. Let me know if you're able to see my screen, right?
I can, at least I can.
Okay. All right, so the intention here is that I'm on an opportunity, and this is true for financial services, healthcare, whatever vertical you are in, right? I'm in an opportunity. In this case, it's an insurance one. And I want to send an email to this person, right? I'm working with Catherine here. And there's some emails that have gone back and forth. And the thing that is very interesting about something like this is that you can do email templates, and you would put first name, replace first name, do this and that, but there is no contextual intelligence there. So what you can do with GPT technologies is you can now send emails that are contextually relevant. So this is going to generate the first draft for you. It's not going to automatically send it. I'm going to click this button. So at this point, what's happening is GPTfy is kind of pulling all this information, all of the activity history and everything. It's masking it or anonymizing it, sending it to AI, and then AI basically creates an email and sends it back to you. And what it's doing is it actually understands that they had a preference, right? They want a cost-effective telemedicine solution, for example, right? And it's not any different whether you are a bank trying to kind of move forward a loan that you're working on with someone on, or financial planner, or whatever segment you are in, you may be doing payments, and any of those can leverage this. So think of it from your salesperson's point of view, from your customer advocates, or whoever is interfacing with customer and sending emails. If they spent 6 minutes writing an email and this cuts it down to 3, because now I have this draft and I can click on this little button here and pop it inside my Salesforce email box, right? And I can make changes to it. I can edit it. If we don't use that, that's fine. I can just hit on this clipboard icon. Now it is in my clipboard. I can go to Outlook. I can go to Google client, whatever email client I use. I can just paste it there, and I can now edit it. So it dramatically reduces the time that your folks are spending. And that's kind of what what we keep on referring to as grunt work. You want to eliminate that cost that folks are spending on. Kavin, any comment before I go to the next one?
That's exactly, this is where this is how it can get real. That
True.
Time money saved is money earned here, and that's what I was saying. Okay. Any other use cases you want to show, Saurabh, here?
Actually, before I go further in another use case, let's see a little bit more on the security front of this, right? So if I click on this, what it will now show you is what was sent, right? So this is the information that we pulled out from Salesforce. And before sending it, it was masked. So we took out the name of, of some of these things, and we replaced them, right? We took out a person's name and replaced it. Another person's name, we replaced it. And we could configure it so that it would have taken out emails and other things. So basically, you have this PII removed information that you're sending to AI. And essentially, then AI sends you back a response. And in the response, it doesn't have, right? It says, dear person, full here. And then we replace it and reformat it and all of that. And then you can present it on the UI. And the part that is interesting about doing this is that the prompt for sending this is actually fairly simple. And that is one of the key areas for all of our users to be aware of, right? If you're going to deploy AI, prompt engineering is an area to kind of really get good at and understand. And you can see this is the prompt. So it is pretty simple, and you can optimize this to have it more grounded and all of that. The other portion of this is what information am I sending to AI? And what we've done here in GPTfy is that we create what we call an extraction mapping. So you can actually specify what data you want to send. It's completely metadata driven. So I can add more objects connected with my opportunity in this case, if I wanted to, right? Then for every piece of information I'm sending, I can specify what fields I want to send. So maybe from opportunity, I'm sending these, and I'm going, oh, by the way, I consider name as PII. So I just check this and I have the ability to anonymize it. So GPT-5 would automatically, identify this information, not only in the name field, but also in the long text unstructured data, and replace it or mask it. So when it goes out, for a fact what is going out. The other portion of this is maybe I don't want to send everything related to opportunity, right? I have, let's say if I have orders here, right? I only want to send specific child object data or grandchild object data. We do 3 levels. So you can use a where clause here, right? So I can say, hey, only send orders that are approved, where status equal to approved or something. So you now have a significant amount of capability in terms of locking down what information will be sent to AI, what elements in that information will be masked or anonymized, and thirdly, who has access to it, which I haven't shown, but I will. And that's kind of back in line with what Kavin was talking about in terms of how do you make this really secure? How do you make this compliant? How do you kind of step away from some of these risks that everybody talks about when you talk about AI? Kavin, anything you want to mention on this?
That's exactly, this is how you make it real. So this is where I think what we were talking about, those 5 stages, this is how it works. Your John Doe becomes person 1, and then that when the person full 1 comes back, you bring it back. And this is how you can, in financial services, PII, PCI, or even simply CID, client identifying information, anything as well, whatever the sensitive data you want to deal with, that's what you have. Typically, other places you may just want to send the full data as is, but this layer allows us to anonymize securely and then map it back. So we leverage the power without exposing ourselves to compliance, regulatory, and just a reputation risk aspect of it.
Absolutely. And the thing that I like about all of this is it makes it really simple and auditable to show what's going on, right? This response that we were on, this is your audit trail, right? This is kind of what, if you're compliance, you're legal, if you have a quality assurance that wants to look at this every now and then and make sure, hey, are we sending the right data? Are we getting right responses? Is there toxicity, bias, hallucination, all the things that people talk about around AI, which, by the way, we have a bunch of recorded sessions that you can look at to get a lot more into detail. All of that is here. The one part I did not mention so far, and let me do that now, is the idea of how do you lock it down to the level of individuals who are using it, right? So I'm going to go to this, right? This is the catalog of prompts that come, baked into at least our product. And what you can do is you can select one of these, and you can see it has a mapping and an object and all of that. But now you can specify by profile. So you can choose to distribute specific prompts to specific profile. Maybe you are global and you only want to deploy AI in the United States and not in Europe. So you may give it to specific profile if you have different profiles. And the other thing is, based on object, if you have different record types, you can lock it down there. The final thing on this is that this product, like GPTfy, is a feature license. So I have the ability to only assign it to specific users. So I'm locking it down by user, by profile, by object, by related object records, by field, right? That kind of is very similar to how Salesforce drives the whole security and visibility, and we are heavily leveraging it. And that is the part that I so like about the ecosystem, the Salesforce ecosystem, that in regulated sectors, this makes it dramatically easier for us to use. Kavin, any comment before I show a few more?
No, I think this is, let's go and show one more.
All right. So here is another example. This is back to, I think, what Kavin was describing as a tear sheet. I'll just show you one that already exists. And the idea is I'm on this account, and this could be a household, right? This is the Mehta household, right? And they have a financial planning appointment coming up, and they're trying to figure out I want to do 529s for my kids, for them to go to college. I want to do some retirement planning, do some investments, buy a boat, whatever those things are. And before that call, if I'm in financial advisor or in their office, I want to be able to get a 360-degree view of some of these things. What has been our, what opportunities are in play, if they have had any cases, things like that. And I can actually just run this thing right now and we can see what it does. So the interesting thing is, again, it's pulling all of this data, anonymizing or masking it, sending it to AI, getting back a response, and kind of generating out that table. But what you will see in this table when it comes back is that there are a couple of columns that do not exist in Salesforce, right? This is AI generated, right? The summary does not exist on my case record or on my opportunity record. The sentiment does not exist in my Salesforce. It is all generated by AI. The next best option does not exist in my Salesforce. It is generated by AI. And that is the part that is compelling about these things is, we can do some document automation with tools like SDocs and others, where you can just literally click on it and get a nicely formatted PDF version that you can print and have a conversation with a customer if you wanted, or use it as a tear sheet. And again, you saw this, we did this in like a fraction of a minute, just a few seconds to get this. Kavin, I know this is your area. Go ahead.
Saurabh, you can actually, as you mentioned, so this is an example. So the what objects, child objects, remote objects in the context, which means that what type of data you want to include and or exclude, that's what the mapping is about. So you can actually expand it to go crazy as much as you want to, or you can want to keep it simple. You can reduce the number of objects.
Absolutely. So there is an interesting, I want to show you one or two more demos, but there's an interesting question that I'm very tempted for Kavin or me to take. Someone is asking, is it too early to start using AI in FSC, considering the point where the coming incidents like Samsung, where data got leaked by their, by AI? So Kavin, if you have any comment on that, because I do have one.
You can start now. It's all about, but again, as I mentioned, we both have come from a compliance background. And coming from both of us, it is possible to start now. Just apply those right steps. That's what is important. Applying those right steps is important. And that's how we need to proceed. And without that, if you just simply take your data, send it to any of the OpenAI or any other public tool or the private clouds, whatever it is, you are inviting a little bit of those trouble. But if you follow those basic due diligence steps, the time is to start now.
Absolutely. And I would agree. And I would add to that, this is kind of like a diagram we typically show to our customers also, right? When you think about, you've got Salesforce and you've got data in it. You have Financial Cloud or Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, whatever, product you have from Salesforce. And you can apply Salesforce's AI Cloud or GPTfy app, or you can build your own, whatever you're doing. That kind of safeguards you on, this is your security perimeter. This dotted purple border is your security perimeter of Salesforce. It is already your trusted platform because that's why you put all your information there. But the question here is, what happens once it goes outside of that perimeter, right? On this side where you have AI. So the good news is there is a ton of robust enterprise offerings from an AI perspective. You could get OpenAI on Azure so that it is your dedicated instance. Your organizations, your data security can completely lock it down to their heart's content. And they should, and they absolutely should, right? You can get a Bloomberg GPT or Google Bard or Cohere or Cloud or any of these offerings and lock it down. To me, the point is, these are very enterprise grade vendors and they have enterprise grade offerings, right? So a lot of the risk around this is mitigated in two fronts. One, keeping as much of PII as you can inside Salesforce, which is really in my opinion, the number of one thing you want to do. And two, having a significantly tight control on the AI that you're sending it to. And most medium and large enterprises that I am aware of are already miles ahead in this space. If, even if they're not using it in production, they're definitely kicking the tires on figuring out what those capabilities are. So, whether you do it today, whether you do it in 3 to 6 months, whether you do it in a year, the only areas to really consider when it comes to security is one, lock it down on both sides of this, and the interchange between them, the transit, most of them is TLS. You can do mutual TLS. We have a whole session on security, by the way, if that interests you. And the other part of this is absolutely log the heck out of this thing here. And you can do that today. So I think that is that's a great call out. I'm glad we got to that. I'll just quickly show you one final demo, and then we can kind of go back to some of the resources, and I'll let Kavin kind of help us close this out. So sentiment journey is another really interesting area, right? You have an interaction, a set of things that have happened on an opportunity, on a case or something, and you want to understand how is the sentiment changing, right? How over a period of time is a customer, is every interaction pleasant? Were they unhappy? What is the tone of their email, right? What is the tone of their messaging? And if you're doing this over chat, if you're recording calls and there is a transcript, you can process all of that and you can get a sentiment. This is a really simple example, but you can kind of see this is neutral, then this is positive. If it had started going negative, we'd be like, okay, that's a problem, right? But if you look at like a case type example, cases tend to have a lot of that complexity. I'm seeing if I have anything here. I have one. So, right. So it's something that has a more sort of back and forth going on. I can actually go and generate a summary and a sentiment. And basically this summarization here will get updated. It already has one, but it'll get updated. And what you're seeing is so much capability, right? This sentiment here is negative, right? It got updated and now you see a red bar because it is negative. And we are populating this. So now you can automate and fire off your flows. You have all of that capability that Salesforce already provides, an awesome set of automation capability that you can hook into your AI and then drive from it. Kavin, any comment on this?
No, I think I'll just say it simply that this is all real. This is all happening, and these are all possible to be done in compliant manner today. Whether you have bring your own tool or you have use this tool or anything else, these are all very safe, managed or compliant transactions which we can operate today. So the time is to start now, but do it right way.
Correct. And prototype, I'm sure your company would go through all the due diligence. And that's great. So I'm going to give you, Kavin, back to this slide because I know this is something that you are very passionate about. So please go ahead.
That's it. So I'll just close right now that, again, everybody, these are the reasons we have to be responsible or ethical with AI. The simple thing is that the data, it's effectively the data we use to train, the data we use to do it is what is going to be the one which is going to generate those intelligence, what we are talking about. And currently, your unreliable outputs, your hallucinations in the world of the LLMs, hallucinations, toxicity, accuracy, all that is very, very important. And I would say that whatever the data, which is, again, humans have generated that data, we don't realize it, but AI is a very, very smart child we have, which can pick up those hidden traits or biases very effectively and actually can exemplify or amplify them, which is a biggest challenge. So making sure that we don't have those hallucinations or the toxicity in your understanding for the models. This whole security aspect of it, because when Saurabh talks about prompt engineering, people talks about prompt hacks. Humans are inherently destructive. So if you know that there is a system or the agent or a bot which knows a lot, then people will try to secure unauthorized access by trying to do the hack. So those are the confidentiality and security is very important. And I think that Samsung information, I have not a lot more detail about it, but any of those areas which can create a problem. The biases and harms, like people have talked about it, the whole the mortgage rates, the insurance rates, and all those, because of those biases and harm, those are all the public information available. Those things have to be definitely taken care of. And the whole aspect and all of this, eventually, that you don't want to truly, even if you use some public-private combination, you truly don't want the copyright information to come right at you, because sometimes it happens. So it's very important. And as we mentioned, as we talked about all of this, if let's say everything is successful, we need to be proactively thinking about reskilling. If we are automating that work, that means that how we need to train our team, which was actually manually operating or manually categorizing or doing the compliance check. How are we going to reskill them into a more front office or the client facing operations and all that? So all the roles which are impacted, which are gonna get efficient by the automation, need to figure out proactively what the reskilling gonna look like for them. So all in all, if you follow some of those, if you are sensitive about these items, you should be, as a leader, will be able to effectively leverage AI and have the success out of it. That's my bottom line for that.
Absolutely. And I think one or two questions came up, so I wanted to pick them. Someone asked about toxicity detection and grounding and all of that stuff that you just mentioned. So two things on this. One is there are ways of mitigating this. Some are in tools like the Salesforce AI Cloud or GPTfy from App Exchange, where we can control the temperature. We can do certain other things with the prompts, and there is a dedicated kind of quality assurance that you want to have on some of these things. And we have two sessions that talk specifically about this in greater degree of detail. One is on security, one is on privacy and ethics. They address a lot of these concerns. What do I do about compliance? How do I address data residency? How do I deal with GDPR, CPRA in the light of AI regulations? How do I deal with bias, hallucination, errors, toxicity detection, all of that? Really, the part of it is like some of this will happen across these solutions, right? You would do a part of it in Salesforce, a part of it is processing data, a part of it is tuning the AI. So there is a mix of those things that you will have to do. The second portion of this, which I absolutely want to make a comment on, is when you think about all of these AI things, it is so easy and tempting to get into these sort of fully automated processing, right? It's like, oh, I get this email from a lead and we automatically generate a response and it gets sent out through Marketing Cloud. And if they click and then this happens, right? When you talk about AI, and given where this is, you want to follow this idea, this philosophy of human in the loop. You absolutely want to do this for the next 12 to 18 months because these things are changing so quickly. And the other portion of this is, this is when an AI model gets upgraded, it's not like they ask you, hey, can we upgrade OpenAI to this new version? It will automatically get upgraded, right? So putting a human in the loop makes sure that if there is any variance in these responses, because these are non-deterministic responses, right? You're not going to get 2 + 2 is 4 every time. It's going to vary in what it responds back with. So as things change, you want to have the guardrails in place to protect it. No technology vendor alone can solve this problem for you, regardless of what this. And we are a tech vendor, I can tell you right now. It's a fool's errand to expect that any vendor will be like, oh, sure, we've figured it all out. You don't have to worry about it. So putting a human in the loop is such an important and underrated aspect in this hype of AI, right? So if you are on that email, remember that I was showing that we're automatically generating. Please remember, it's generating a draft of an email. You don't want to click a button and automatically send it out. You want to make that email your own. All AI is doing is where I was spending 5 minutes in writing an email, now I'm spending 2 minutes in editing a draft. That 3 minute is a significant value for the organization, but at the same time, it keeps you and your users in the loop. You are in the driving seat. I mean, it's a very sort of like you want these technologies to be the co-pilot, the digital assistant, whatever you want to call them, but they should not be the one in the driver's seat at any point of time.
And Saurabh, I'll put just a shameless plug here in a way that, okay, that's exactly, I think, put it right. So developing this simplify means you need to develop the right AI risk framework in place. And this is where technology vendor and this is what I do and my team does. We help you build the right AI risk framework in place to make sure that we have the right guardrails. That's what it is. You need to have the right framework, and just sheer autonomous nature or the non-deterministic nature of this tool makes the governance, the risk framework way more critical than anything else.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. I know we are a little bit over. I really quickly want to give you guys a sense of, some of the resources we have. I'm going to skip all of this now. So you can get all of these sessions, all of these PDFs on a LinkedIn group that we have created. So we wanted to have this single point. You can copy this bit.ly. I think some of my colleagues would put it in the comment. You can scan the, the little QR code there with your phone if you like. But please go ahead and join this LinkedIn group. It's called Enterprise Dreaming, updates, discussions, and more, I think. So you can go join it, and then you'll have access to all of these sessions, including this one and the one that's happening later today. You can download some financial services use cases that are available. And they, again, pertain to some of the things that we just talked about. How can you do summarizations, tear sheets, account 360, a lot of those kind of things. And, we will eventually be adding a lot of these demos, 2-minute demos that you can see for yourself, show it to your folks, and just kind of build more credibility around some of these and figure out what is useful for your organization or not. There is a very interesting roadmap, white paper on the future of AI in terms of implementing it internally and how will this evolve. Very quickly, what we think is happening with a lot of customers is they're going to start with one generative AI. Think of it as an API that you're integrating with. So maybe you go to OpenAI on Azure, or you go to something else, or you take the Salesforce, choice of models that it offers, and you go with one. But particularly in some of the sectors like financial services, there is Bloomberg GPT. There are very interesting industry-specific vendors that are continuing to invest heavily in this space. So in the 12 to 18 months horizon, you may have more than one AI. You may have very specific use case oriented AIs that are doing fraud detection, KYC, money laundering related compliance, all of those kind of things will come up. And this is what this paper is about. It's a really interesting area to look at. Again, same, that LinkedIn group is where you can get this. There's a data sheet. If you would like to learn more about what we do, how we do it, GPTfy is available from App Exchange. You can go check it out there. It's, I think, priced right now at $9.99 per user per month, but you can go look at this if you like. And then we have another one, which is really a culmination of all of these sessions that's happening later today at 2 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 Eastern. But if you get a chance, join in. This is a session with Anand Narasimhan, the CTO of SDocs, and one of our ex-colleagues and friend, mine and Kavin's, and he's brilliant. I think you will get a lot of insight into really just kind of bringing it all together, not just the possibilities of what you can do with Financial Services Cloud or Sales Service Cloud, but also all these other aspects on security, privacy, ethics, business case, ROI, build versus buy. And it's a really good sort of a sampler tray of all of these things that we have talked about. Kavin, any comments on this? I'm going to take a look if there are other questions on this.
No, I don't. Let's see that if you have any questions. Otherwise, let's see.
All right. I am not. I think we answered some of these. Oh, there is an open question. Hold on, let me go there. No, it was that. Is it too early to start using AI? I think we talked about that. Someone asked if this is if this product is available from App Exchange. Yes, it is. So GPTfy is available from App Exchange. Kavin, anything else you want to add on this? I know I kind of skipped a slide or two. If you think that.
Just hit us on the Saurabh. I'll be there at Dreamforce. You'll be there. Just hit us, and happy to connect more on these topics.
Absolutely. Yes, everyone. If you have if you are headed to San Francisco, definitely ping me or Kavin, and would love to meet folks and see how we can help or have a chat about some of these things. Last call for any questions that anyone has. While we are waiting, one thing I would add for this is I wanted to acknowledge Kavin for taking the time to spend with us on this, and a lot of our other speakers as well. But the thing that I find very interesting about financial services is it's probably one of those few areas where we loosely use the term financial services. Just the sheer number of sub-segments and their own nuances, from banking to wealth management to financial planners to insurance to payment processing to whatever else the world is doing. It's just mind-boggling how much nuances and variance that has. So I'm very appreciative, Kavin, for you joining today and sharing your very seasoned perspective.
Pleasure is all mine, Saurabh.
All right. I think we don't have anything else so far. Thanks everyone for joining. Again, really appreciate your time today. So Kavin, hold on. I'm going to